I think it shows now with Saka signing a new deal, Saliba, they said Real Madrid were looking at Saliba. So I think it sends the right message out that we're moving in the right direction. It's just, what is the progression now? It's going to be over 200 million. And I saw you saying it, on your show on TalkSport. It's like, what is going to happen now? Are you going to win the title? What is the expectation of the Arsenal fans? So I think the pressure.
What is it? Because no one's got a divine right to win. You can't start the season, unless you're Man City maybe, but most teams can't start the season and say, listen, if you don't win the Premier League, it's a failure. If you don't win the Champions League, it's a failure. No one has a divine right to win. But now with Arteta in, correct me if I'm wrong, fourth year?
Fourth full season.
Fourth full season, four and a bit,
It's a long time.
Consistent backing, getting rid of what he needs. And even last season, we looked at it and said, that's a team in his image. Yeah. And now you're adding this window of what it looks like it's gonna be. You're going, that's polished now. What is the expectation? How do you manage that?
That's a tough question, man, because I think most of us would still sit here and say Man City will win the league next year. It's
mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
105 million on Rice, 65 million Havertz, 30 million Timber, maybe one more and go, we're still not favourites.
Because I'm seeing them, they're saying Vardy, they've got Kovacic. It's ridiculous, isn't it? So I think we need to challenge City again and not fall off, because at the end of the season we collapsed.
Yeah.
It was a bit embarrassing, in fact, at the end, the way it just kind of, they won it without even playing the game.
Robbie didn't think that. Robbie thought it was fine.
He did think it was fine. Apparently you didn't.
I can't comment on Robbie.
That's why we can.
Yeah, you can.
We can.
Robbie,
We can
Robbie say it was all right?
Yeah.
You can have a go.
Yeah.
I think for us, we need to win a trophy now. I know that sounds a little, but 3 years now since the FA Cup, we haven't won a trophy. I know.
But not a Carabao Cup, though.
No, listen, I'm in a different category to that. I don't actually agree with that argument that he was having. I'm all about trophies, man. So I think, look, you can only win 4 trophies, and City are likely to win the Prem. Champions League is... Yeah. That's very difficult again, especially if Mbappe goes to Madrid and City and that. So you can't dismiss the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. So to me, challenge for the league, get to the latter stages of the Champions League and win a trophy, I think would be the minimum for me.
Abby, as a Spurs fan, actually no. I'm setting it up wrong.
Go on,
not as a
rephrase
Spurs fan. Not as
it.
a Spurs fan, just as Abby on this show. Because if it's a Spurs fan, there's no point asking.
Yeah.
If you look at Arsenal, what should they be looking to do? They're getting good players. They're backing Mikel Arteta. They've got spirit. They've got fight. They've got hunger. They've got excitement. And now, though, they've got expectation. They've got anticipation. What should be a successful season for Arsenal now? Is it just keep competing, being in and around it, or do we need some silverware?
I agree with Curtis that they need to potentially start challenging for some silverware. That's not me saying necessarily the Premier League or the Champions League. I'm saying a Carabao Cup, and I don't know why the Carabao Cup gets so much disrespect, to be honest with you. I don't know why, but I'd say domestic trophy.
But just quickly, if Arsenal finished second, say they didn't win the Premier League again, which you're saying is kind of likely, kind of thing. Yeah. But they only won the Carabao Cup. The narrative around Arsenal, what would it be after?
Again, because it's the expectation. Yeah. But at the same time, like Curtis just said, we're all probably nailed on to say that City are going to win the league. There's nothing to say that you can't win the league. Who knows what can happen? Chelsea under Poch, who knows what can happen? Big Ange at Tottenham, who knows? But we do know that. But I think that the main thing that you have to build on again is challenging again, because if you look at it from a Liverpool perspective, how they were with Man City every single year, they were thereabouts, they were challenging, pushed it every single season to kind of the last day. If you want to be challenging, you have to learn to do that the whole way, and take it to the line, and then the best team wins. Obviously what happened last season, it tailed off, it kind of did capitulate towards the end. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Spurs fan, I'm just saying it because it's pure facts. But that's what you need to build on. You need to learn from what happened last season, and I think that looking at what you did last season, you learned from the season before when you bottled the top 4. You learned from that, and then you went on, and I don't think any Arsenal fan expects you to, come second or, have the season that you did have despite the ending. But I think if you can keep learning and growing from what happened the season before, then there's nothing to say that you can't take it to the whole way or win the league or take it to the final day or something like that and really challenge them, because the squad you're building is up there with a squad that is capable of challenging for sure. And especially when Chelsea are in a transition, Tottenham are in a transition, Liverpool are in a transition, Newcastle, is that a one-off, or are they going to add more? I know they've obviously added Tonali, but what else are they going to do in the window? I still think they need some more additions to come in to, just boost that squad and the quality of it in the Champions League. But also, you haven't played in the Champions League for a long period of time. So I think it's been 7 or 8 years. So what's going to be interesting to see how you deal in that, what's your focus, what's your priority type of thing.
Matisse, you're always, you're ready to get onto Arsenal, for different things. But that has largely been like we said, because of Don Robbie though. Because Robbie on this show he's been
Deflector,
unbearable. Mr. Deflector has been unbearable this season, and it all crumbled for a big crescendo in the end.
Yep.
But now going forward though, how do you view it? Because they're looking good, man.
They are.
They're looking very good.
Looking good. I think every single year City are the favourites, aren't they?
Just by default.
By default. Yeah. But I think if you look at it over a 4 or 5 year period, for any club that builds their team up, does the right things in the market, has stability from a managerial recruitment standpoint, you'd want to snag a title out of City's dominant time. I'm not saying that
that's an achievement in itself.
Exactly. I'm not saying you got to win it this certain year, but you've got to win it at some point in this period. And if you don't, then you haven't done anything.
So basically, like Liverpool did.
Yeah,
I know they kept knocking in and around it.
It's the same with any sport. Yeah, there's always a consistent underdog. If I take it to Formula One, Rosberg versus Hamilton, he got one. That was an incredible achievement. Obviously, Hamilton was going to get most of them, but you need to get something. You need to leave with something.
I agree.
Because if you don't leave with anything,
happens in tennis. Look at Andy Murray; you just get one.
Exactly. You just take one. Any sport, there's an underdog. You have to at some point overperform. You have to defy all odds, right, and do something that no one expected. That's sport. So, if Arsenal do that this year, the season after, whenever it is, you have to build up to doing that. You can't just keep finishing second and say, oh, it's Man City. Like, you have to, at some point, you have to take over.
Win. Yeah.
The thing is as well, you look at City last year, like they had a lot of luck as well. Like you look at Haaland, he missed 2 games last season. I think this year teams will really target Haaland and be a bit more aggressive with him. I think De Bruyne's 32 now, and I think it was his birthday yesterday or something. So you just hope that with that treble,
can there be a bit of drop off?
Is there a little, if they ate too much now?
We were saying that. We said that at the start of this season.
Gundogan's a big loss as well.
How if
Bernardo Silva leaves, we do this every year with City,
and they find a way. But it's true though.
We cling to things. Let's be honest.
We literally had that conversation up until January, and we were saying that City don't know like City, but it doesn't matter because when you know how to win it, you know how to win it, and you know when to click into gear at the right time. Unfortunately for Arsenal, you clicked too early and you fell off too early. But there is nothing to say that you won't go on and do that. But they're not going to like me comparing this. But when I see your team, not with the things you've made now, the new signings, but when I looked at your team last season, I always felt it was very similar to when we had that team that we were talking about earlier under Pochettino, where we were challenging or came to second in a 3-horse race or whatever it was. Came third in a 2-horse race even. So they reminded me a lot of that. And I think the difference when I'm watching what you're doing now is that when it got to the summer, we moved to Wembley. We didn't really make many additions that strengthened the squad. Whereas I'm watching what you're doing and you're making the right moves to strengthen the squad. So that's the only type of thing, because I felt that it was very similar last year. I watched us drop off at the end. I watched you drop off at the end. And I just thought it's going to be interesting to see what you do in the summer. And you're making all the right sounds and movements that you're going to do for the season ahead. So I'd say it's promising from your perspective. And by the way, someone in the chat said that I've lost my mind thinking that it will be a one-off for Newcastle. I didn't say a one-off. I just need them to strengthen because obviously Chelsea aren't going to be how Chelsea were this season. Neither will Liverpool, and I hope Tottenham won't be. So it's going to be.
Might get 8th this year.
Yeah, it's going to
incremental changes.
You can only hope. It's going to be a very competitive season, especially at the top, and see how the gap has closed over this summer between Arsenal and City and Liverpool, Chelsea, etc. So it's not saying that they're going to drop off. It's just saying they're going to need more than Tonali. I think, to be able to compete with everyone else.
I agree that Arsenal strengthened their squad defensively. I think if they get Timber and they've got Tomiyasu fit, Ben White's there, Saliba's there fit because obviously he missed out last part of the last season. You're basically bringing in Timber for holding. That's definitely strengthening. Are you strengthening the midfield if you let go of Partey, bring in Rice, let go of Xhaka, bring in Havertz?
Yeah, are we confident that Arteta's getting this transition right of trying to retake the midfield?
That's if asterisk. If
Sambi Lokonga hasn't worked.
Yeah,
Mohamed El Neni's just that's what it is.
Yeah.
So this is actually a bit of a transition period for your midfield, and he's basically saying Arteta is, I fancy Havertz to be in there. I can work with that, which is a bit eyebrow raising, but okay, we trust you. Is what Arsenal fans would say. Declan Rice is the man. Partey is even going to stay. Xhaka's gone. Are you confident, but and this is the kind of last bit on Arsenal before we move on, are you confident that actually Arteta's managing this transition well?
Havertz for me is the one that's kind of like...
It's a lot of money for Havertz.
Yeah, the Havertz. I mean, I've not been a fan of him at Chelsea at all, to be honest. And then he described him as a midfielder yesterday when they announced him. So everyone's saying he's going to play that Granit Xhaka role, which is the
most... Out of all the positions, I look at where Arsenal... He ain't ever going to play instead of Jesus because he can't do what he does.
No.
Can't do what Martinelli does. Definitely can't do what Odegaard does. Can't do what Saka does. That's the only kind of spot.
Position he could play. I wonder if he's going to try and mirror what City are doing, and he'll try and play with two attacking midfielders, Odegaard, Havertz, maybe Timber or Zinchenko go and play next to Rice, and then we have a back three kind of thing. That's the only way I can see how he can fit in. For me, if you bring in Rice and Havertz and let go of Partey and Xhaka, I think that's very risky.